If you've ever been told to modify a vowel or to use a pure vowel or to place your vowels either forward or backward, but you never knew quite what any of that meant, this video will clear up a lot of things for you. A vowel isn't a place or a shape you aim for necessarily. It is an acoustic event that is created by how your tongue and your hard palate relate. So your vowel is not really a static place or a shape that you aim for. It is an acoustic event that is created by the relationship of the top of your tongue, your dorsum, and your hard palate, how they work together. And I hope today I'm going to give you some real clarity about how vowels are formed and how you can start to work with sort of this very direct code of understanding physiological relationship, acoustic relationship, and how you can start to use that in your favor, understanding how vowels are formed. Hey there, if you're new here, my name's Dan Callaway. I teach musical theater voice and vocal pedagogy at Boston Conservatory at Berkeley. More than 25 years, kicking around on equity stages, more than 15 years, helping singers get to work on Broadway, national tours, regionally and around the world, and I'm very glad you're here with me today. Our brain thinks of a vowel as a letter, letters that we learn very early. So A, E, I, O, U for English speakers, A, E, O, U, those sort of pure vowel sounds that what we would call pure vowels when we learn to sing Italian and things like that. But we get this sort of letter idea of a vowel. We see an image of a letter, the letter A, which can have A, can have all kinds of sounds in the English language. I have a 6 and 7-year-old at home, and them learning to read, I'm just like, wow, English is I pity anybody that has to learn this language. It just doesn't make any sense. But yeah, so we have this very sort of first grade idea of the way a vowel sound happens. So even we see the letter A and we think A, or we see the letter A and we think short A, This is, obviously for English speakers, American English speakers in my particular case. But just think about how you encountered language and learned words when you were a child, no matter what your first language might be. Your brain mapped in a certain idea of how sounds were formed. A, E, oo, O, very lip dependent, very throat feeling dependent. So the idea is that we think that vowels are sort of this whole event that happens throughout the vocal tract, when really the essential event of a vowel happens, like I said at the beginning of the video, with the tongue's relationship to the hard palate, and I'll explain a little bit more about that later. We think that we make certain vowels with our mouth. E, oo. That's actually not necessarily true. The mouth and the lips help with vowel shaping, but they are not the essential event of a vowel. We think of these pure vowel ideas, A, E, O, U, and their variations, especially, say, in Italian singing. We think of them as these very static, fixed vowels. We think of them even as some sort of moral code, even the word pure, a pure vowel that has these real, moral, religious connotations that can be really unhelpful, because vowel, so I always say, if you're singing, you're moving. If you're living, you're moving. The tongue relating to the palate is always adjusting and moving. So vowel is this sort of moving, shifting thing that we can calibrate and use to our own artistic and communicative purposes. In reality, vowels are frequencies. They are two primary resonances that your ear hears and labels with an identity of a vowel. So let's look at how your body actually creates that. So here's the key idea. Every vowel you sing is determined by where the dorsum of your tongue, the top of your tongue, is in relationship to your hard palate, where the dorsum of your tongue relates to your hard palate. When the dorsum of your tongue moves forward and up, closer to the front of the hard palate, or here, the alveolar ridge, you get vowels like E, A, E. Those are vowels that happen near the front of the mouth. When the dorsum of the tongue moves back and down and relates to the back of the hard palate, you get vowels like oh, ooh, ah. Those sorts of vowels happen when the dorsum of the tongue is relating to the back of the hard palate and even moving down a little bit. When the dorsum of the tongue relates to the hard palate, it's creating what we call a constriction point. It's a place where you are narrowing a place in the vocal tract. So that creates two zones of acoustic energy. From your vocal folds, the point of fundamental frequency, the vibration here, to that narrowing point is one zone of frequency. And then from that place to the opening of your mouth is another zone of frequency. We often refer to these areas as formants, F-O-R-M-A-N-T, a formant, which for the purposes of this video, let's just think about a formant as a zone, a grouping, a gathering of acoustic energy. So these two different arrangements of acoustic energy are relating, and our ear discerns that as vowel. So the movement of the tongue is always changing the sizes of these two acoustic chambers and how they interrelate, and that is giving the impression of vowel to our ear. You have a frequency coming from the folds, and then the changing and shifting of your vocal tract shape is creating different frequency relationships that create what we call vowel. And like I said, we often call these acoustic zones formants. Even the definition for formant, it's developing and evolving the more voice science works with acoustic factors. Formant 1, F1, is mostly shaped by your jaw and pharyngeal space here in the back. So that is the space, again, from the vibrating folds to the first constriction point of the tongue. So it would be very long for an E vowel. Yeah. See, the tongue is moving, changing the vowel. And then the second formant, formant 2, is shaped by the tongue's position toward the hard palate. So that's going to be the second zone. So formant 1, formant 2, roughly. Okay. So together, those two frequencies are what our ear discerns as specific vowel. That's why vowel isn't a letter. The letter symbolizes a vowel, but it is an acoustic arrangement, an acoustic fingerprint. We get to sculpt vibration into sounds that our ear discerns. The tract is moving and sculpting the vibrating air that is moving through. So you can just feel this. You can literally just feel these sort of front vowels first. E, 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 ah, e. So you can trace these vowels for yourself, and you can just pay attention to the tongue's relationship to the hard palate. And once you just start paying attention to this, then you can get curious and you can find out a lot of things on your own. Oh. And a lot of times I'll be working with a student when we're working with an E vowel. Sometimes I will do a little squishy face like this, and we'll sing E, taking any sort of lateral idea away. A lot of times we think E, this sort of idea again from first grade, E, but the E vowel happens from the tongue. E, and the same with oo. A lot of times we think oo is dependent on the lips being round, but we'll do this crazy little stretch face. I'll go, I'll go, ooh, ooh. So you feel the tongue is what creates an oo vowel. The lips help it, but the tongue is what is the essential creator of the oo vowel. Just mapping where the tongue is relating along your hard palate, and that is going to give you an idea of where the vowel lives, or how the tongue's relationship to the hard palate is creating all of these different frequency orientations, frequency relationships that we hear as vowel. And notice again that the vowel is not about how your lips or your mouth are opening. It is about the tongue shifting and relating to the hard palate. And this matters for singing because it connects to registration. It is inextricably linked to and directly affects resonance, and also obviously style. And depending on what style we're in, our vowel shapes are going to are going to live inside a certain stylistic framework. So different vowels. The vowel happens here, but the vowel does have a retroactive effect on resonance and also to your vocal folds. Like you know, all of the systems of our voice are always interrelating. So a vowel that I make, a vowel that I form, has a resonant consequence, and that resonant consequence has an effect on vocal fold phonation, even on breath impulse. So the systems of the voice are always interrelating and talking to each other. So our front vowels like E and A, they have a higher second formant. So up here in the front, it's a smaller chamber, therefore a higher frequency. And on back vowels, that second formant is going to be lower. So ah, oh, ooh. There's literally more room from where the tongue relates to the hard palate to the opening of the mouth. So that's going to be more space, lower frequency, a lower second formant. And vowel also has a direct effect on what the back of the tongue is doing, how that is creating acoustic shaping just north of the folds. So say if I have an E vowel, E, that can be in chest voice just fine here in my lower voice. E, so right up to C, I'm fine. But once I'm starting to climb above C4, this is going to shift a little bit. So you see this frequency is getting higher, and it's starting to talk with the frequency of this E vowel inside the vocal tract. So that's when we get into things like vowel modification. So I'm going to lower my jaw in order to create a little bit more lower frequency in the oral cavity that's going to balance with the higher frequency that's happening in the folds. So if you have my vowel has modified. If I'm singing up here, I'm singing that F, but I'm really saying an I vowel that comes across to the ear as an E, because the frequency of the vowel is collaborating with the frequency from the vocal folds, and the ear is discerning that as an E vowel on F. So vowel can be quite mysterious in that way. The other thing that happens to an E vowel is that if I don't, it can either squeeze or pop into mode 2. So if I have E, it'll want to go into mode 2. E, if I don't let it go into mode 2, it will just squeeze. E, that's why we have to have other modifications in order to balance out those frequencies. So the vowel A will support mode 1 very well. A lot of times when you hear higher tenor singing, you're going to really discern that the vowel that's being used is an A vowel. Someone sent me a video of a really terrific tenor singing Nessun Dorma, and when he was singing the B on Vinciado, he was totally singing an A vowel. So that A vowel, feel how the tongue, its place, how it sits high up in the mouth, and also the back of the tongue is narrowing into the tract. That is giving you a lively acoustic environment that is supporting mode 1. So if you have so that is going to promote mode 1. If I wanted to take that and change it to an so if I just take D to A, that's just me dipping my tongue down into an It automatically wants to yodel into mode 2 when I make the vowel a little farther back. So when I make the vowel move into an in fact, in International Phonetic Alphabet, the circle with the line, that as in father, in received pronunciation, I don't think I ever use it as a singer. I'm always tending toward the typewriter A. That's more the bright andiamo, or even toward as in cat. I'm using those vowels a lot. So understanding how different vowels interact with registration becomes really important. But just to experiment, if you're having trouble remaining, say if you want to remain in mode 1, a lot of times it's going to be a vowel choice idea. Investigate that. What if I try this with different vowel shapes and see what happens. It is important to have some pretty direct understandings of which vowels will modify to what. But really being aware of how the tongue relates to the hard palate for what vowel and what the overall shape in the vocal tract is from that vowel is very important. So E, oo, head voice loves those vowels. So a lot of times when you're doing yodeling, I will pop into E's and oo's for head voice. E, ooh, ah, ooh, ah, ooh, ah. The E and the oo head voice loves that because of the space. There's got a lot of volume from the folds to that first constriction point. And then ah, those vowels bring the tongue quite high, create this really juicy acoustic barrier that creates a lot of acoustic vibrancy that supports mode 1 chest voice. But the more we play with these things, the more we can experiment and we can understand how, oh wow, my vowel is affecting, obviously, my overall resonant neighborhood. That is affecting my phonatory pattern, my registration. Then you can set up certain vowel shapes and be pretty sure that the sound coming through is either going to be mode 1 or mode 2, depending on what your intention is as a singer. And then it becomes less mysterious. You see text and you think, like, say if I'm singing Maria from West Side Story, if I'm singing Maria, Maria, up there, I'm really going to be singing Maria, Maria. So when I get down here, the vowel is going to be closer to what it would be in speech as the pitch gets lower. But up here, I have to sing, in order to maintain mode 1, I have to sing Maria. So if I have that, that's more of like an situation for that Maria. So it's going to be Maria, 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 Mama, Maria. A little bit of is still in there. I'm holding the vowel shape, bringing it to a lower frequency to see what the actual shape is, and then that gives you a clue. So I'm looking at Maria on the page, but I know it's the code for that is Maria, Maria. So once you know that, then you can utilize that as you're moving through different things. So what's that? What is it? Your love? Is it the outfield? I think that's right. So if I have, so if you take it into rock or more commercial styles, Josie's on a vacation far away, yeah? Josie's on a vacation far away. Turn around and talk it over. So what's that shape? Josie's on a vacation. I'm having a lot of sitting up in my tongue. Josie's on a vacation far away. Josie's on a vacation far away. Turn around and talk it over. That my tongue is sitting in a very position for that whole thing to support mode 1. If I'm like Joe, if I try to make that more 2-0, I'm not going to be able to sustain mode 1 through that. So it's a lot of physiological and physics experimentation to see what vowel is going to support the mode that you want. And you can just play really gently with these elements. So you can just take going from like E to ah and just take any vocalies you want to try. So say if you want to take a minor third and just notice how frequency and resonance shifts as a result of vowel. You can literally make up any exercise, take any phrase from any song, and just be conscious of how vowel is moving. You are literally sculpting the vibration that the folds have just created. Sculpting that, playing with it, observing it bounce, watching how it interacts. When you make a vowel, watching how the retroactive activity of the vibration going back to the folds is affecting things. And just noticing what the more fronted vowels, E, what kind of frequencies happen there. O, those back vowels, what happens there. A lot of times these farther back vowels, especially in my vocal tract, if I feature too much on these more back vowels, especially in higher frequencies, my tract will intone flat. So I'm always sort of leaning into the more forward vowels in order to give myself every advantage for good intonation. But that's just in my tract. So you just have to be aware of how your tract, how it naturally selects overtones and creates acoustic blends and color blends, just to be really aware of how your tract does that. You get to know that over time. And then just noticing the continuum of the vowels. Just notice how, as you move your tongue, you can take those same sorts of exercises and then just moving the tongue very slightly and just notice how the vowels shift. A slide is probably good to use. And just notice how the vowel shifts as the tongue shifts along the slide. That's a really fun one to do, or even just one pitch. Start doing all kinds of crazy things. So it's just kind of fun to notice, oh, vowel is created by my tongue's relationship to the hard palate. And then other parts of the tract that think that they are responsible for the vowel, they can relax and they can start to play their part in the whole scheme. So then a lot of times people have these questions like, should I sing on pure vowels? And I mean, this idea of a pure vowel, we hear there's certain vowels that, I guess I'll just say there's certain vowel shapes that just kind of hit better than others, I think that's what we call a pure vowel. So it's like when the frequency blends are in this wonderful ratio, our bodies can feel it, and I think that we called that a pure vowel. So I think stay away from that idea, because it can really become this, I found the pure vowel, but then it becomes this sort of static thing that we're always searching for, when singing is always dynamic. It's always moving. You're going to be singing different pitches, different words, different consonants are going to precede these vowels. So you're always going to be in a different situation. So having a dynamic understanding of the tongue relating to the hard palate, I think, is going to benefit you the most. They are flexible acoustic events, and adjusting them keeps resonance efficient. It keeps us in a state of economy of movement and of balance. And also I know, if I need to adjust a vowel a little bit, I can. Just 1 millimeter of movement can make a huge amount of difference. So understanding that is going to be very important. Also, are vowels about my lips? Are they about my jaw? Are they about my throat? So all of these things affect vowels. So you also get into things like blended vowels. So if you have a vowel like U, I have an E vowel in my mouth, E, and I am blending that with rounded lips, or that vowel, the OE that you hear in French, German. And we use that a lot in English singing actually too, depending on what we're modifying. So if I was saying, I don't know why this is coming up in my head, but I'm totally hearing Miley Cyrus be like, I can buy myself flowers. That's an OE. Flower. I can buy myself flowers. I don't know why, but that just came to my head. I think because I went fleur in my head in French, and so it doesn't matter. So that's rounded lips with an in my mouth. So these blends are lip dependent. So my lips do play a part. If I'm singing an oo vowel higher, I'm going to modify from oo to as I move higher, and I'll shape that with my lips. So if I go ooh, 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 I'm going in my mouth, but this is making it sound like ooh, ooh. It's an in my mouth as in book, and then my lips make it sound like ooh in that style. I'm trying to think. Yeah, and then that you hear that a lot of times in like higher like sounds that I'm going you. That's gonna be more of an I vowel in my mouth with rounded lips. So we do get into blends. The lips absolutely play a role. Your jaw plays a role. Lower jaw, lower frequency. So sometimes, like I said, on that E vowel, as I moved higher in pitch, I lowered my jaw to give that some lower frequency. So that's an example. And also, pharyngeal shape, pharyngeal management, that also has an effect on vowels. So where your soft palate is, what the pharynx is doing. A lot of times the throat thinks that it's part of vowel, and it's not. It's very affected by vowel. It affects resonance, absolutely. But like say if the constrictor muscles of my pharynx, your swallow muscles, if they think that they're part of E E, E. They're trying to literally push that E out of your face. They do that a lot. That's why sometimes things feel squeezy. It's because the pharyngeal muscles want to come to the vowel party. So once they start to understand, oh, that's your role, that's my role, now we can collaborate. That's a big deal. And that really helps. And like you've seen, different vowels are going to feel different at different pitches. The higher I sing, I lose access to certain overtones in the series. And so we're going to be tuning vowels differently as we move higher. But yeah, your vowel, like you said, I'm going to a higher range. I'm going to be tuning my vowels with some lower frequency dynamics in order to balance out the frequencies that are being created in the vocal folds and the frequencies that are being created in the tract. So you can play around. There's more than one way to do this. A few other things about vowel for me. On every vowel, I don't know that I always do this, but I like to think, I really do like to let the tip of my tongue rest behind my bottom teeth. That helps me just think, I-O, I-O. That gives my tongue a lot of freedom to move. It's not a hard and fast rule. Play around with the sound you like, where you like your tongue to be in the mouth. But for me, I kind of like to let it sort of puddle forward and let it just rest behind my front teeth. That's just a personal preference. That's not like you must always do that. Link this back to the video that I just shared about root tongue tension. So this is about the dorsum's relationship to the hard palate. As you play around with vowel, check in with the root of the tongue. I-O, I-O. You don't need a lot of engagement at all down here to execute a vowel. So it's really this top part of your tongue that's mostly moving and active. It's not the root of the tongue so much. So check in on that as well. So when you understand that a vowel is an acoustic event created by your tongue and your hard palate, the relationship of the top of your tongue to your hard palate, you're going to stop chasing sounds and you're going to start shaping resonance with purpose and confidence. I can experiment with a lot of things and I can find things out. I know this vowel supports mode 1, I know this vowel supports mode 2, and I can be confident in selecting vowel color in whatever style I'm singing. If you want to see how vowels, resonance, and registration all fit together, check out the free voice map overview that I provided for you, linked below in the description. That is a system of understanding the systems of your voice, how they all function together. And when you have a holistic understanding of how the systems of your voice work together, you can solve a lot of problems on your own. You understand how your instrument is so interconnected and interdependent, and you start to sing with a lot of freedom and relationship with yourself. It's a wonderful thing. So grab that in the description. And most of all, please remember there is only one you, and somebody would love to hear this story. Only you can sing. Love much. Now go sing.